Welcome to my next video on how to get busy with your PAT. So hopefully by now you've taken a look at the database example, which is already up on YouTube. And you can see we've got a basic database class over here, and I've shown you how to get things back from it. Here we're returning a string. You can get integers, so you can return your data in any format. I suspect that for the majority of data items, you'd want strings and you'd want integers to, or floats or whatever to get out of a database. So go take a look at that video if you haven't. For today's lesson, today's video, I'm going to be focusing on how to create a GUI in NetBeans, and then I will show you how to populate it with some basic data, and then where you're going to get that data from. So I'll just be typing it in. You will be getting it from the actual database backend. So let's take a look at something like that. So the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to create a new project. I will call it GUI example. Sorry. So the first thing is actually choose the type of project. We just want a straightforward Java application. That option should be selected by default. Then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to untick create main class. The reason for that is because let me not untick it. You should untick it. It creates this main file, which we in fact don't want to use. It's not. Let me actually create one we do want. So it did create a package for us. I suggest you actually create a package with your surname. So I'll create my new Java class inside there, and I'm not going to create a new Java class. I'm going to create a JFrame form. Be careful, you could also create a JPanel form, and they'll look pretty similar, but the JFrame form is absolutely the one you want. So we'll create a new JFrame, and I'll just come up with something. So you would probably be starting with a login GUI. I'm not going to do a login GUI, so you don't copy from me. I will do a, let's pretend we're going to do something about students and houses. So I'll call it a student house GUI. So obviously this is why you plan your GUI. So you should have some rough idea of what they're going to look like, and what GUIs you're going to create, because I'm literally just going to make this up as I go along, which is not going to lead to something that makes perfect sense or anything like that. So if you take a look at the source here, you can see first off we're using inheritance here, so we're extending from JFrame, whereas over here there's no inheritance, and that's why we want to extend from JFrame. We want all the functionality that it has by default. So let's get rid of this GUI project.java. So you can see it's just a useless class, pointless keeping it ticked. Let's get rid of that package. And then if I try and run this now, it's going to say there wasn't a main class because I deleted the one and it asked me to choose one. And that's why I do really recommend you pick the GUI that you're going to be starting with, say the login GUI as as the first one that you take and runs, just so you can set it as the main class. That's one that will always pop up. You can edit that later in the properties. And you can see I've done absolutely no coding, and I've got a window which has got a little the top portion, and then over here a display portion. I can minimize, restore, maximize, close, all that functionality that I haven't done any coding for, and that's because we're extending from JFrame. So the nice thing about NetBeans is that it gives you this design panel, and the design allows you to create, basically you can drag and drop without having to hand code it. So I could, for example, if you take a look, so we've got if I take let's put a button, and you're going to have buttons, and we'll just make this button, quit. So I'm going to put a button on there. So I'm going to change the text. So edit text, I'll change it to quit. And then it's good practice to, it does make it a bit smaller depending on the text. So you might want to resize all your buttons to be the same size. If you have made a custom size, I have found it actually quite simple sometimes to actually just copy and then paste. And then you end up with two buttons. Whoa. that are the same size, assuming you don't like redrag them. And then obviously what you would need to do is you need to edit the text and change the variable names and stuff. But let's delete this. And then what I'm going to want to do over here is I'm going to want to change the variable name because jbutton1 is not a variable name that's going to get you any marks, and we'll call it btn quit. It's also, it's just btn quit. It tells you that it's a button. It tells you that we're quitting, so it's good practice. So we've done that, and if I run it, you can now see I have a button here. And for your design document, all you need is for the GUI to look like. So it's not going to quit when I do anything, and that's fine. I probably will show you some of that at a later stage. And then let's say we're doing a let's say that what we're doing is we're going to find a student. We're going to search for a student, and then we're going to be able to set their house. So we want to label, and I want a text field. And what we'll do is we'll say search for their first name, and then we'll display their surname or something. So I want, let's get 2 text fields. Put that there. And then we want to choose their house. And if you're choosing from a whole list of things, I strongly recommend a combo box. Let's get another label. All right. And let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so I obviously don't want the text to look like that. So now the label, I'm not going to change at any stage whatsoever. So I'm just going to edit the text. I'm going to say surname. And this is going to be first name. Okay, and let me just rearrange, get it looking nice. Okay, you know what, I can maybe do that. Wow. Okay, what I did is I actually changed the size of the padding rather than the size of the, no I didn't. There we go. Okay, and let's just realign those. A little bit fiddly to work with sometimes, but you can generally get it to look quite decent. So surname and first name, I'm not planning on changing these labels ever, so I'm fine with you leaving them as JLabel1, JLabel2. You could rename it to LBL first surname and LBL first name, whatever, if you really want it, but don't worry about it. This, on the other hand, we're going to be typing text in values into it. We're going to want to read from it. So we definitely want to change the variable name. So I will call this txf surname. And then let's edit the text and get rid of all the text. And then let's change this variable. This is going to be txf first name. Okay, and once again, edit the text and get rid of it. And then this label here, let's edit the text and let's just call this house. And over here, I'm going to change this to, it's a combo box. So let's go cbx house. Okay, and let's go to properties. Not properties, sorry. Somewhere here, there is a where it must be under properties actually. Oh, here we go. Model. So the model, it's a bit weird, you'd think, okay, I just need to add strings to or whatever to a combo box, or add integers and stuff, but you don't. You actually add it to the model, and I'll show you how to do it. That's why I've chosen a combo box, because it does get a little fiddly. But for the time being, it currently contains, and I'll leave it for now, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. The selected index, that's which item you selected, is currently an index of 0, and the actual item is then item 1. So let's just run this. You can see now we have everything. I can type in here. Not going to do anything for me. I can type in here. Again, not going to do anything because we haven't written any code. Item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. And I click on the quit button, doesn't do anything. Even though I coded it though, like force a habit means, we're going to quit it. So you can see how useful GUIs are. Right, if we go over here, you can see if you do this. So, I could just go, if I really wanted, Thompson, Nash, Runge. The selected item, I wouldn't change from here. So you can either get the value from an existing component. So you could, I could set it to be whatever the t of x first name is or whatever if I wanted, or some property, which is, again, you know, those are things like color of a text box and things like that. So certainly wouldn't use that. Or I could call from a method. I'd have to create that method somewhere. But whatever, we're going to do that all in code, so don't even worry about that at all. You can see it has updated it to Thompson. Just for fun, let's change that to a 1. Let's just see what happens there. And you can see that when I run this, because I've set the selected item to Nash, it starts off at Nash instead of Thompson. Okay. As I said, we're going to learn how to do that programmatically, so I won't worry about that. Let's go take a look at the source now. So you might think, wow, we've got all of that, and it didn't add anything to the code. It just created, here's our button, a combo box, labels, our first name and surname. It does put the variables right at the bottom, so just be aware of that. These aren't variables, objects. We put all of ours at the top. And another thing to keep in mind is that normally we would import javax.swing.star. They haven't done that, which means that when they're talking about a JButton, they can't just call it a JButton, they have to call it a javax.swing.jbutton. I am probably, because we're going to add our own, I'll import it. I can always reuse it, delete it later. If you ever see this warning here saying, warning, this import isn't used. So if you get to the end of your programming and you haven't actually used an import, you can just get rid of it. Okay, so currently everything is inside init components, which is they've hidden it away from you because you're not meant to touch it at all, because it's auto-generated. If you start messing around here, you know, then they can't guarantee it's in the right thing. You know, when you start designing, again, it's going to go off, so you generally can't edit this code. Be careful. If you open up in another file, you can, but there's never going to be any need to do it. And you can see over here, this is where they're creating all of their buttons, labels, and text fields. And you can see, again, you know, all of that text field functionality is just coming just by saying, let's just create one. You can see here there's a set text method, which most of anything that's got a text element allows you to use. Over here, you can see where they're talking about the combo box model. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a new method where we change the model of our combo box, because I'm going to get it from a database or whatever. Set the selected index if you wanted to. That reminds me, in fact, it's a bit silly to do that. So let's set the selected index to 0. I mean, if you really wanted Nash first, then why not just put Nash as the top one, whatever. Okay, then over here, this is just the layout. And this is really the reason we use the NetBeans layer editor, because it's a real pain trying to do all of this by hand. You can see it. This is not exciting at all. It's literally just coming up with playing around with layouts, adding gaps and stuff. I've never even bothered reading any of that. So then that, if you do create everything, don't forget at the end you want to call this pack method. If you really have to create your own frame and you want to add things and rearrange them and stuff, until you call pack, it doesn't rearrange them nicely. But again, we're not going to be doing that. Right, so let's make quit. So what I'm going to do is, if you take a look at the quit button, so getting them on here is easy, and that's all you have to do for your design document. I've shown you everything. I've shown you more than you need to know for your design document. Because you need to look at the source code. So design document, if you just want to do a design document, you can push stop right now, and you can just go wild here. Actually, don't push stop right now. What you might want to do, let me just quickly create a new JFrame. This is, again, some of you doing this. I'm just going to call this pane example. So no, tab example. So another useful thing, I think, you know, just putting basic components on. Sorry, I don't want to be here. Is easy. You just drag and drop. But some of you want a tabbed pane. So you can see, for example, over here, I've got tabs here. If I click here, it takes me to this GUI. Click here, it takes me to this GUI. I don't have to open new windows all the time. So if you want to do that, what you want to do is so we've got a basic frame here. And then if I want a whole bunch of tabs, I actually want to add a tabbed pane. So we'll put our tabbed pane there, and it doesn't need to be the whole screen. I mean, you could, for example, we might have some tabbed panes. Then over here, I might have a button or two, and maybe a maybe a checkbox. I don't know why I'd have a checkbox, but whatever, have it here. I mean, I don't know what on earth you'd be doing with these, but maybe you'd need them for some reason. I mean, these buttons could apply to whichever pane you've got selected. You have to, take a look at that then. So I've put a tabbed pane on. And then what I want to do is I want to add some panels to this tabbed pane now. So the first one drops on very nicely. You can see there's tab 1. And when you try and add the other one, it actually adds the panel to the tab. There's got to be a better way to put it in. I don't know where it is, but honestly, the easiest thing I found is just drag it, put it on there. And then if you take a look at this navigator here, if you can't find the navigator, you go to Window and open the navigator. And panel 4 is currently on as so you can see, sorry, we've got a JFrame. The JFrame contains a tabbed pane, a button, and a checkbox. Our tabbed pane contains a panel 3, and then our panel 3 contains a panel 4. What I really want is for the panel 4 to be on the tabbed pane itself, so I just dragged it up onto the tabbed pane. There I've got tab 1, tab 2. Let's throw a third tab in. There's somewhere that there's going to be some magic place that you can drag and drop this that it puts it in the right place, but I have no idea. Maybe it's here. It's not there. I have no idea where it is. So definitely not there. You can undo, by the way. So yeah, honestly, I found the easiest. Just put it on there and put it onto the tab pane. There we go. So now when I run this, whoops, I need to run file. So now when I run this, I've got tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, tab 4. Let's put a text area in here, for example. And then maybe this one here would have a combo box. And this one would have a list. And this one would have a table. My table is, no, I don't want that there. I want I want this on panel 5 or whatever. There we go. You can see a table comes with what's called a scroll pane. That's going to let you scroll left and right. There's a little warning there. Don't ask me why. Oh my word. Run file again. Okay, we'd have to fill. Oh yeah, it just made that bigger when we put our table there. Oh, I know what. I think I know what's got a little warning. I think it's because. Nope. Oh well, I thought it was because the layout was there. Let's get rid of this. Let's just get rid of this vertical gap. I'm gonna have to just drag up there. Okay, so fixed vertical gap, which I can't edit layout space. I want it not. There we go. Right. So, let's get rid of our little warning. I can't believe I keep pushing run instead of run file. There we go. There's our tab with an item. There's our list. Here's a table. These are very useful. And then tab 4. I just wanted to show you the text area does automatically create a scroll bar if needed. Okay, so that's another useful thing. So now at this point you can just pause the video if you just want to do the design and you're done. If you want to see how to use some of these things, carry on watching for a bit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, so let's pretend we've got a database class going somewhere. Let's create a new class DB. I've done a video on how to do the database, so I'm not going to repeat that now. Perhaps later on I'll show an video of me actually integrating it. But for now, we're not even going to bother with a constructor. We'll just use the default one. And I'll just have a public search. It's going to take a string surname and a string rats is something you're going to return, and it will literally, if surname dot equals Gil, so obviously you'd be getting this out from the database. Surname dot equals Gil, then ret equals Matthew, return ret. It's complaining because ret might not have been initialized. And there we go. That should be good. Oh, wow. My bad. Okay, so there we go. So that's going to return Matthew. We'll probably also want a backend here. Let's do that. Let's just create a Java class. We'll call it person. Let's give them some fields. So private string first name equals first name. Oh, sorry, and then private string surname, and then private string house. Public, let's create a constructor. You know what? I'm going to do it the lazy way. Let's insert a constructor. First name, surname, and house. Cool. Right, and then let's insert some getters for all of them. There we go. Right. You know what? Just why not? We might use it. Let's insert some setters for all of them. Done. Got a little bit of a backend class here. So now what we're going to do is, you know what? Let's return a person instead of a string. Okay. And so obviously what you would, so let's create a person. So instead of a string ret, let's have a person return. That ret is just abbreviation for return. So if my surname equals Gil, then we'll say person, sorry, ret equals new person, Matthew, Gil, and we'll make a house blank for the time being. Person ret equal. Okay, so now we're creating our person in here. I don't want to like sort of create something blank and not return it. You could do that though. You could just go equals new person. Would use the, and then just, okay, but it's probably better if we say let's make person ret equal null, and then we return ret. So what's going to happen is now if we don't find it, it's going to return null, and we'll work that into our code. Cool. So there we go. We've got a person. So this is our database class. In reality, we'd be doing a whole database query, something like this. So we'd have like get student English, get an student's English marks. We sent it an integer for the student ID. We create a statement. We execute the statement. We build up our return from the actual value, and then we go with that. So that's what would really be happening here. But I don't want to do databases in this video. So now let's go back to our student house GUI. And you know what? We need a search button. And let's call it change variable name btn. Okay. So first thing, let's make our quit do something. If you right click and you go to events, you can see there are a whole bunch of events that you can do. I will just go, the action performed is like the default one. So the action performed, like when I click on a button, that's an action that I performed. You can either go to events, action, click on action performed, it will create the method, or you can just double click on it. And it creates an action performed method. If you want to see what happened in the back end, it added what's called an action listener, which then calls this, which is this action performed, and all it does is call btn quit action performed, which is this method over here. So all I want to do here is I want to go this dot close, I think. No, it's okay, I'm thinking of the wrong language. It's this dot dispose. So run it. You can see it, and then I click quit, and it gets rid of the thing. I'm not sure that actually did quit properly. So it's disposed it, but oh, there we go. You can see it finished running. Cool. So yeah, once the last window is frame is disposed, it does quit the project properly for us. Cool. So our quit button works. Let's go back to design. Let's make our search button do something. It's events. I want the action performed. So I want to say txf, and I can see a nice over here. Here are my members in the navigators field, so I can see still what I called everything. So we'll say if, db equals new db. You'd probably, you know what, I don't like that. Problem the fact that I did it incorrectly. So let's make the DB a private DB equals new DB. The reason I'm doing this is because when you, what is this complaining about? Oh, wow, identifier, DB. Okay, when you create the actual database, there is a little bit of a lag about creating the connections. You just want to do it once and then store it. And so over here, let's do this. DB equals new DB. Not wrong having it up the top like I had, but I do prefer to do all my initializing inside the actual constructor and instantiating. Right. So then we'll say person, let's just add student, no, whatever, student equals db dot, wow, my word, sorry, db dot search, and we want to search from txf surname dot get text. So the idea being here that we're going to type in the surname into the get text, and we're going to txf surname we're going to type in the surname, and then we're going to click search, and then we'll do that. Now what you might want to do is we might want to actually have something here. So if txf surname dot get text dot equals an empty string, I'm quickly going to throw a label in. So this will be an example of a label that we are going to change. So let's just have a label here, edit the text, I'll make it empty, at which point we won't be able to see it. So let's drag it out a little bit. And then let's edit this, change the variable name to LVL error. And so it's going to start off empty, and then what I'll do is I'll just say, so if the get text is empty, we'll just say LVL error equal, dot set text. Please type a surname in the text field. Right, let's run this now. So my surname's empty. If I click search, please type surname in the text field. So let's do this again. You know what I want to do actually is let's throw in an else. So this actually does bring in a, we'll just make it empty. So this is previously everything you've done has been program starts at the top, goes all the way through to the bottom. Maybe you go to a method, maybe you run loop, but that's what happens. Over here, we're responding to events. So this code, nothing's going to happen until I click on the search button. And then again, nothing's going to happen, even if I put stuff in here, like it's not suddenly going to empty that until I click again on the search button. So it only responds to events. Okay, now let's make it do something. So what we've done, we're in a really terrible database. We're returning null if it's anything other than Gil. And if it is Gil, we're returning that person. So let's do that. So let's check for that. So if student equals null, let's say LVL error.setText student not found. Okay, let's do a little test of that. So in theory, actually, and you know what? Sorry, this should all be in the success case where our let's just format that again. So this should all be inside the success where our TXF surname actually has something in it. Otherwise, you know, it's going to say student not found when we search nothing. Cool. So let's do that. Cool. Type surname. Let's try solo student not found. Okay. That's cool. So if student is equal to null, else what we're going to do is we'll say txf first name dot set text student dot get first name. So let's do that. Let's run this. There's a problem. It's txf, not txt. Right. Run this, and now if I type in Gil, there we go. It's putting in the Matthew. Obviously, you'd want to have a database query in the backend and set that there. And it's been bugging me a little bit that this keeps popping up in the left window, and I keep having to drag it to the center of the screen. So if you right-click on the JFrame, go to Properties, go to Code, sorry, Properties, then click on the Code tab, and you click on Generate Center. When you run this, it pops up nicely in the center. Trivial detail, but that irritates me. So if we search for someone else, no student, and if we search for Gil, we have a student. Cool. So what I want to do now then is I want to be able to update the house. So this is where we're going to programmatically do this. So once again, from a database, let's say for some reason, we might have houses that change. So public, and we're going to put these into, so let's, in fact, before I create this, I want to look at the return type. So let's go back to student house. Let's go to source, and let's edit our combo box. So we're also going to want to do this once we've clicked search, because that's when we're going to want to populate the combo box. Or maybe we want to do it, let's rather, let's rather do it over here. So when the form is created, we're going to populate the combo box. Okay, actually, we don't need to do a little test because I just remembered, in fact, we can take a look at the generated code. And what we want to send our combo box model is a string array. So that's cool. So we can go to our database class. And once again, we're going to do a database query to get this, but we'll call this public. So it's going to return a string array. And we'll just call this get houses. We don't need to send it a parameter. And so let's create a string array. And we want to make it an array of size 9. And you could get this programmatically. So if you needed to, you could get the count of how many rows you're getting from the database if you're going to be adding houses and so on and so forth. Perhaps I might do a full combined one where I do it properly with the database and everything. But I mean, between looking at the database example and this, you should be able to get everything. Right, so now let's say ret naught equals Thompson. I am actually, in fact, I did this behind the scenes. Don't want to waste everybody's time. I'm just going to take forever if you watch me typing it out. So we'll just do that. For crying out loud. Oh, well, this is a nice opportunity to show off. Let's be able to edit, replace. Ooh. So edit, replace. Okay. Oh, there. Oh, wow. It's over here. Sorry. I want to find temp, and I want to replace it with ret. And I'm going to replace all. Done. Right. And then, cool. That's fine. So that will return our string array. It won't actually. That will return our string array. Now let's go back to our student house. So we're going to call our database code. We said we were going to do this when we created the program. So let's say I want a combo box house, and it's set model new default combo box model, and we're going to set it db.getHouses, and that should work quite nicely. There we go. There are our 9 houses. Cool. And then what I could do is let's throw on, and sorry, before I get there, I just want to take this and let's go to properties. It's somewhere down here, my first name. I don't actually want you to be able to edit this because, we're reading that from the database. It's here somewhere. You might even have seen it and doing all this. There we go. It's like right at the top. So if I untick editable, it's not going to be editable. And it does by default make it that ugly sort of gray, which is going to blend in with everything. So you can change the background right back to white again. Maybe not a great idea because then people are going to wonder, why can I type here but not here, but whatever. So let's find Gil. There's Matthew. Just for fun. Oh my word. Else, oh, for crying out, apologies. If surname dot equals Sven, and you can see why you actually want to use the database, but you don't want to be typing out a million options here. Sven Solo. Also don't know what house he's in. Although ironically, we're both in Thompson. And then what we can do is let's just create a button called update, or okay, it doesn't want to put it. There we go. Edit text. Save. Change the variable to btn save. And just for fun, let's make it start off disabled. I'm looking for the variable called enable. There we go. So let's make enabled there, and we won't be able to do anything. And all we will do is over here, when we found the student, we'll say tx btn save dot set enabled true. And so if you take a look, I can't click on the save button. Now when I do this, I can. And then what we can do is we'll say, so this is just going to allow us to change the house. So let's say we've got a person student dot set house, and it's a combo box, cbx house dot get selected item. Okay, and then we're not going to be able to see where the house is. So in fact, and this is actually be bad design for the user because they wouldn't know that. So let's display the house as a text field. So let's edit the text, get rid of it. Let's change the variable name to txf house. And then what we can do is we can have over here, and you, oh wow. Yeah, okay, it might take a bit of fiddling sometimes to get things to look nice. So have our save button there, let's do that. I should probably, in fact, wait, let's go back to, okay, so it all happened when I wanted to put that there. Oh well, okay, well, whatever. Okay, so, and then maybe here, let's change this to, no. I forget where I did that. This is edit layout space. Change that to naught. You know what? Might be easier to just drag and drop. You can always get it to look right eventually. Do that. Do that again. Okay. Oh, okay. Somewhere here. Oh my word. So this is what edit layout space. No, that wasn't it. Something here had. What is this? Oh, it's our label error. Oh wow, no wonder it's doing that. Okay, that is the problem with making stuff invisible, I suppose. Put that there, put that there, put that there, put that there. LBL error, put that there. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to edit the text. I'm going to say this is error. And what I'm going to do is in the constructor, we'll make LBL error dot set text to nothing. Oh, by the way, very important point this. If you try and do any of this code before init components, it's not going to work because the components have been initialized. So make sure init components is the very first method call or the very first line inside your constructor. Cool. So now I should be able to do this, and of course I can't. I think it's that fixed horizontal gap. I think it's that fixed one. It's these fixed ones that are a problem. If you change it to resizable, that actually works fine. There we go. Right. Okay. Anyway, back to where we were. So what I'm going to do, so let's change, edit our house. So when we find our student, okay, we'll worry about that later. So btn save.set enabled, and I also want to go txf house.set text student.get house, which means, which means, in fact, in our database, let's put a house in. Say we're both in sixth form and we want to move back to Thompson. Cool. It's not txf house. What did I call it? I don't think I changed it. Change variable name, txf house. Okay, there we go. So now if I run this, Gil search, there we go, I'm Matthew Marange. And now what I want to do is I might want to change my house and save it. So you might think I just wasted a whole bunch of time, but it is like, I feel like this is a bit more user friendly. So we'll change the house, and then we'll do that. And also you're going to be able to see the change. So let's just do that. Okay, so now in fact I don't want to do this in the search method. I want to do this in the, if I click the save, so let's put a save method there. And all I want to do now here is I want to say, oh, you know what, we're not saving the person anyway. Okay, what, you know, okay, let's do it properly. Person student. And then just over here, we're not going to hide that, so we'll just say, there we go. So now what I want to do is I want to say I want to say student. Here you have to be careful because we're instantiating our student in the search action performed, but we're going to change our student in the save action. And currently right now our student is null. So if I was able to access this method before search has been called, I would run into an error. I don't think I can because I'm only enabling it when I do that, but let's just put some, just to be safe. So let's go if student is not equal to null. Otherwise, we're just not going to do anything. So if student is not equal to null, then student.set house, and it was cbx house.get selected item. Okay, which gave us an error. It's not showing it up. It's not showing there for some reason. I mean, it's there. What happens if percenter? Oh, there we go. Cool. Right. Incompatible types, object can be converted to string. So obviously a combo box can have a whole bunch of things inside here. So it doesn't know what's inside it. We have to, and we know we put strings inside. So let's cast it as a string, and this should work. And then finally, let's go txf house.set text student.get house. Okay. Save that. Let's run this. Gil search and come up in range, and let's change me to Thompson. Done. And I can even change me to Hill. Cool. And then I can quit. So almost done. I think one last thing I want to show you is just over here. Just demonstrate some of the other methods. So all things have got methods. So what you can do is, I mean, you can do all kinds of weird things. So if we go to events here, so ancestor is to do with like the parents. So you know when so like for example, the ancestor of house is a JFrame, but you're probably never going to need to use those. Don't need a carry. No, I think that's could do something with the clicking the flashing cursor thing. Maybe, I don't know. Weird component things. If you're doing something with containers, focus. So focus is gained and focus is lost. Focus is basically when I click on something. So, I forgot to set house to uneditable. So let's just change this to non-editable, and let's change the color back to white. And you know what I'm going to do is, in fact, you know what, these aren't lined up, but I don't care right now. Let's add over here, let's add a little focus gained listener. So focus gained. So when focus is gained, let's just do lbl error.set text. You cannot edit the surname field, first name field. And then I think we also want a corresponding focus lost. Okay, so let's do this. So now, if I click on this, you cannot edit the first name. Okay, I'd have to drag, make the label a bit bigger. Let's just do that. Cool, there we go. I can actually put it all the way there. Right, so let's just test that again. There we go. That's quite cool. And other things you can do, let's do, so if you want to do fancy things, you know where you move over something and it does something cool. So you might want to do mouse entered. And so this is search, so btn dot, you're going to have to bear with me. Can I set the color? I'm going to show you some advanced programming techniques here, which is J button set color. And you might want to do set color programmatically if it doesn't work. It's set background apparently. Okay. I would never have guessed that. Okay, color. Well, you know, it's going to come in with color.red. So as soon as I go over the search, makes it red, and then we can throw in a corresponding events mouse exited, and then we can go btn is it gray? Who knows? I think it's light gray. Java button default color, using O because it's a default color is gray, thanks. Which it's not quite. It might be light gray. You can always just do a whole new color. Oh, you can change it null. Oh, it makes it null color, not default. This is quite cool, actually. What they're doing is they are getting the default color from something. They're setting the background to a new jbutton.getBackground. You can save it somewhere. So, like, maybe that would create another variable. I think that, you know what, whatever. Let's do it. Whoops. And in fact, actually, this is quite cool. So color, old search color. You know what? I can use the South African spelling. And so what we do is when we go into it, the one thing about, you know, this uneditable code is it won't let you push enter there. So you have to go here, push enter, bit of a pain. But so color, what's it called again? Old search color equals btn search dot get background, and so then we can go equals old search color, and so now if I run this, cool, gives me a little flashes red if I hover over it. And the nice thing about saving the color is that even if I decided, you know what, I want to change the color to blue, green, by default green. Okay, I don't. That is the background. Okay, that's a bit weird because I did just change the background. Okay, cool, it did. It just didn't display nicely there. It saves it. So that's quite cool. All right, I think that's probably more than enough to get started with.